Enneagram Twos are driven to be kind, nurturing givers, satisfying their need to feel loved by showering those around them in affection and acts of kindness. They have a natural talent for empathy and emotional support, and find their worth in being needed and valued by others. Twos are amazing friends who will move mountains to support their loved ones. They're optimistic, warm, caring, friendly, and incredibly supportive people who can always be relied upon. However, in their endless quest to help others, they often forget about their own needs and lose touch with their true feelings, putting themselves last in an effort to put everyone else first. Underneath their cheerful and upbeat demeanor, twos hide a powerful inner struggle. They are secretly afraid that they aren't worthy of the same love they so freely give to others. Today we're going to be digging into how to use the Enneagram 2 personality type when creating characters. Whether you're writing a novel, screenplay, short story, webcomic, video game, or any expression of story. The Enneagram is an ancient philosophy connecting human behavior with human beliefs and has been an absolute game changer for me as a writer. So if you want to make your characters more flawed, conflicted, relatable, and human, keep watching. This video is part 2 in an epic 9-part series breaking down the Enneagram. The overarching fatal flaw for a type 2 is I'm not lovable as I am. Though this need for love, the seeds that planted it, and the goals that stem from it can vary greatly depending on the person. It's important to note that every 2 expresses their need for love in a different way. Some 2s might fulfill their sense of lack by becoming an excessively generous servant to others, while other 2s might become the likable and attractive celebrity of a friend group in order to feel like the center of attention. The greatest vice for a type 2 is pride. A 2's pride shows up in 2 different ways: inflation and deflation. When deflated, they are hyper aware of their insecurities, constantly feeling like they're not worthy enough and needing validation from others. When inflated, they take on way too much responsibility, convinced that they can meet everyone's needs and exhausting themselves in the process. They try to boost their confidence by telling themselves that they can meet everyone's needs except their own, which they tend to ignore completely. In their most prideful state, they see themselves as super capable heroes who can handle anything. The downside? They start believing it's selfish to focus on their own needs. The 2's core wound often stems from their childhood experiences, where they feel like their needs weren't fully met. Maybe their caregivers were overwhelmed, inexperienced, or just unable to provide the love and attention they needed. This leads 2's to develop a powerful belief that their needs are somehow too much for others to handle. So what do? They adapt. They learn to push their own needs aside and become incredibly attuned to what others want instead. They figure if they can just be supportive enough, helpful enough, caring enough, then maybe others will naturally want to take care of them too. It's a survival strategy that makes total sense given their experience, but it often leaves them feeling empty. Even after leaving behind the environment where they first learned to prioritize the needs of others over their own, 2's often hold on to this core belief. Helping others is virtuous, and expressing their own needs is somehow selfish. To cope with this, 2's have a fascinating defense mechanism, which is repression. Think of it like an emotional painkiller. They push down their feelings, especially anger, because they're terrified it might push away the people they care about. The wound is still there, but they've gotten really good at ignoring it. This repression shows up differently in each 2 subtype. Some do it to keep up their perfect helper image, while others genuinely believe everyone else's feelings matter more than their own.
The scale of culinary endeavour suggests you're trying to keep your mind occupied.
Switch the radio on and leave me in peace. Go on.
Another trademark behavior of the type 2 is disguising their requests in the form of a sacrificial offer. They do this unconsciously, subtly using reverse psychology to reveal what they want without actually coming out and saying what they want. For example, instead of saying, "Would you please take the trash out?" they might say, "Do you want me to take the trash out?" and then wait for you to catch on. In short, the 2's driving internal conflict is their desire to show love and give unconditionally to others in hopes that others will love them back and meet their needs. Okay, now let's look at some of the strengths and weaknesses of the Enneagram Type 2. First up, strategic helpfulness to create indispensability. You know, it's not so much that the 2s give to get, but they unconsciously believe that the more love they project and show others, the more that love will be reciprocated. This misbelief can leave them trapped in toxic relationships where they are giving 100% to the other person and the other person is just taking everything they have to give. However, in some cases, the 2 can use this helpfulness to create a sense of indispensability and feel like they are so important to other people that these other people could not navigate life without them. Another strength/weakness in the Type 2 is seductiveness. This is one that you're gonna hear a lot when you study the Enneagram 2 personality type, but I like to think of it like this. It's not so much that the Enneagram 2 is consciously seductive, because oftentimes 2s don't even realize they're being seductive when they're being seductive. 2s may butter you up before asking you for a favor, but they see this unconsciously as more of an equal exchange of generosity. One good turn always deserves another is a motto that 2s unconsciously live by, which leads us to another strength and weakness: generosity. 2s are typically very kind, nurturing, generous people. They are willing to give all that they have to give and never regret that. And while their kindness often stems from a place of genuine caring and love for the people around them, it can sometimes be a mechanism to get that attention and that love that they felt they missed out on early in life. And possibly one of the worst faults of a Type 2 is martyrdom. 2s often struggle with setting healthy boundaries. They have a hard time balancing their desire to help with their need for self-love and self-care. And while they genuinely want to help, sometimes their constant giving can become exhausting to themselves and overwhelming to others. And in this way, 2s can become martyrs, sacrificing their own needs and wants to meet the needs and wants of others. Because our personality is shaped by our past experiences, we can often find clues in our childhood to how we became the person we are today. If you're writing a character who is an Enneagram Type 2, it's important to know what events unfolded in their past that have turned them into this personality type in the present day. So here are some common childhood conflicts that can shape a person into an Enneagram Type 2. Growing up with too many siblings, not enough love to go around. Feeling unheard or unsafe as a child, experiencing love deprivation as a form of punishment, forced into a caregiving role early on in life, giving up what they wanted to meet another's needs, absent or unpredictable caregivers, addiction, neglect, etc., praise and rewards for being helpful, being bullied or excluded by siblings, schoolmates, etc., or on the flip side, being showered in attention and praise as a child. Of course, other childhood conflicts can lead to a person becoming a Type 2, so this is not an exhaustive list, but it's a good springboard to get you started, get the creative juices flowing as you craft your character's past. Now that we have a good understanding of the Enneagram Type 2, let's break it down even further into the 3 subtypes. In Enneagram philosophy, each of the 9 types has 3 subtypes based on primary instincts: self-preservation, social belonging, and sexual or one-to-one bonding. Of course, everyone has all 3 of these instincts, but depending on which one is dominant, your personality will express itself very differently. Before I knew about these subtypes, I only heard Enneagram types described as healthy, average, and unhealthy, but I think this is kind of a limiting view of personality because no one is 100% healthy or 100% unhealthy or 100% average. We all have a mixture of healthy and unhealthy traits, vices and virtues, strengths and weaknesses. And your character is no different. They're on a journey of change. They're either progressing towards a path of growth or they are going towards a negative character arc towards their own destruction. That's why I decided for this series to take these 3 subtypes and explain them in a different way: the bright side and the shadow side. So we're gonna look at each subtype of the Enneagram 2 and look at the bright side and the shadow side. So the positive ways that they could grow and change, or the ways that their shadow self could consume them. Self-preservation twos, or as I like to call them, the giver or the martyr. Some describe the self-preservation two as a sort of privileged childlike two who indirectly has their needs met through being helpless and cute. But I respectfully disagree with this assessment. Rather than being childlike and cute in order to evoke love from others, these twos are unconditional givers, seeking safety, protection, and love from those around them.
I know you're the patron saint of lost causes, but really...
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
That you care about people who sometimes don't deserve it.
Oh, on that we must agree.
They are the countertype of the three subtypes because they don't have pride in themselves, but in others. Giver twos do have a certain childlike persona in that they are attracted to a protector figure that makes them feel safe and loved. But while they may sometimes feel helpless, they actually possess a lot of strength and fortitude.
For I am fierce and proud and steadfast and true, and I'll not settle for second best.
On their bright side, self-preservation twos are kind, caring, long-suffering, merciful, and comforting. They're like the personification of a warm hug, and even when someone mistreats them, they are quick to forgive and forget. A good character example of the giver two is perhaps one of the most famous fictional characters of all time, Cinderella. This classic fairy tale tells the story of Ella, a young woman who lives by the very two-ish motto, have courage and be kind. After her mother's death, Ella's father remarries, bringing into their home a cruel stepmother and her two daughters, which thrusts Ella into a life of servitude. Despite her circumstances, Ella embodies the traits of a healthy Enneagram Type 2, displaying immense kindness, empathy, and nurturing disposition towards all living beings. But her greatest strengths become her greatest weaknesses when her evil stepmother and stepsisters exploit her goodness and relentlessly put her down.
I will not have anyone associate my daughters with you.
Ella's character arc displays the journey of positive growth for a Type 2 as she learns to assert herself and acknowledge her desires, bravely attending the royal ball and ultimately confronting her stepmother.
You have never been, and you never will be my mother.
This adaptation of Cinderella highlights her growth from self-sacrifice to self-affirmation, teaching us the importance of showing kindness not just to others, but to yourself. When the shadow takes over, however, self-preservation twos go from being the giver to the martyr. Because of their unconditionally loving nature, they are often blind to red flags that a person doesn't truly value them. In this way, martyr twos can easily be taken advantage of. Their pride can turn into hero worship, which becomes toxic when the two refuses to acknowledge the ways in which they are being emotionally manipulated or abused.
You broke my heart. You acted like somehow it was my fault, my misunderstanding, and I was too in love with you to ever be mad at you, so I just punished myself for years.
Because martyr twos often felt deprived of love as children, they can fall into a trap of mistaking attention for love and settle for mere crumbs of affection to keep them going. A good example of this shadow side taking over is Martyr from War and Peace. Burdened by self-sacrifice and the neglect of her own needs.
Andre's leaving. Think you may never see him again.
And whose fault is that? You made me quarrel with him. I blame you for this.
Maria is the dutiful daughter and supportive sister who channels her energy into being a caregiver and seeking love through selfless acts. Her deep-rooted desire to be loved and valued is abused by her father, who frequently belittles her, making her feel worthless unless she is serving others.
How can anyone be so gullible?
It's not until Nikolai Rostov comes into the story that Maria's journey of growth begins. He's the first person to truly see her worth, providing a stark contrast to the constant criticism she endured from her father. Nikolai's love offers Maria a fresh lens through which to view herself, one where she's valued for who she is, not just what she does for others. This perspective shift helps Maria break free from her unhealthy martyr two patterns of seeking validation through self-sacrifice.
And if you knew how long I've been waiting for you.
It's a perfect example of how the self-preservation two can be rescued from the shadows by someone who truly loves them for who they are. Next up, social twos. The celebrity, or the meddler. On their bright side, social twos are natural-born leaders who thrive in group settings. They have a knack for cultivating influence and building their reputation as someone who is likable and attractive. These twos aim high, seeking leadership roles where their accomplishments can shine. Unlike the self-preservation two, celebrity twos more likely came from a pampered environment. Not so much deprived of love, but rather showered in affection and praise, often being an only child or the star of their family's show. This early taste of being special shapes their adult desire to maintain that celebrity-like status in their social circles. Social twos are masters at expanding their influence within groups, always working strategically to shape outcomes in their favor. While they can come across as enthusiastic and confident helpers, there's usually a calculated angle behind their generosity. These twos tend to push down vulnerable emotions like shame, fear, or jealousy, refusing to acknowledge these feelings exist. A good character example of the celebrity two is Emma Woodhouse from Jane Austen's Emma. Raised in privilege as the only daughter of a wealthy, indulgent father, Emma grows accustomed to being the center of attention and adored by her social circle. Her early experiences shape her into a social orchestrator who delights in matchmaking and influencing others' lives, believing her actions to be benevolent.
You think I ought to refuse him then?
Harriet, are you in any doubt?
However, through the course of the story, Emma starts to see the error of her ways when her harmless matchmaking wreaks havoc on the lives of her friends and, eventually, herself.
Oh, Harriet, if I had known you had meant Mr. Knightley, I should never in a million years have encouraged you.
Why should you not? You said that more wonderful things had happened, and why should it not be so?
Oh, God, that I'd never met her!
It's not until her meddling threatens her own happiness that she finally wakes up and starts seeing people as, well, people, not just pieces on her social chessboard. By owning up to her mistakes and working to be more supportive and less manipulative, Emma proves that even the most status-obsessed two can become truly humble, kind, and empathetic. When their shadow side takes over, however, celebrity twos become the meddler, satisfying their need for respect by leveraging their power and influence over others, rather than their generosity. When they slip into unhealthy patterns, social twos can become judgmental of others and may use their power and influence to control situations and bully other people into respecting them. A good character example of this shadow side taking over is Thomas Barrow from Downton Abbey. Thomas starts as a footman who frequently meddles in the affairs of others, often motivated by a desire to improve his own standing, but also reflecting a distorted version of the social two's need for acceptance and influence. His actions, fueled by loneliness and a struggle for recognition and love, frequently position him as an antagonist within the household. But Thomas is not a purely evil villain.
Do you ever wonder why people dislike you so much? It's because you are sly and oily and smug.
Well, if we're playing the truth game, then you're a manipulative little witch, and if your schemes have come to nothing, I'm delighted.
We see through his underlying vulnerabilities that he feels unlovable. But rather than channeling this unworthiness into becoming a kinder, more likable person, he exerts dominance and intimidation on others, whether it's through pulling rank on subordinate servants or cleverly scheming to blackmail and punish his enemies.
If that's how you want to play it, I'll give you until upstairs dinner has finished, after which I will ask to speak to her ladyship and I will tell her your story.
His character demonstrates how the shadow side of a social two can abandon all sense of kindness and generosity, resorting to scare tactics in order to win respect. And finally, sexual twos. The lover, or the manipulator. While the self-preservation type is the selfless giver, and the social type seeks belonging and influence with their generosity, the sexual subtype is all about finding true love. Lover twos are desperate romantics, plagued with a deep intrinsic need to find the other half of themselves. They have a profound capacity to love, but they also feel that there are certain unlovable parts of themselves that they must keep concealed in order to maintain a relationship with someone else. These twos are assertive, determined, attentive, intense, and hard to control. While lover twos have an incredible capacity for deep, passionate love, their fixation on the object of their affection can cross over into an unhealthy obsession. A good character example of the lover two is Anna from Frozen. Her character is driven by an earnest desire for close connections and true love, which aligns with the Type 2's longing to feel loved and valued. This comes from her backstory, where she felt rejected by her sister Elsa shutting her out.
Elsa and I were really close when we were little, but then one day she just shut me out, and I never knew why.
I would never shut you out.
Anna believes that love looks like an open door, which makes her particularly susceptible to manipulation, as seen in her insta-love relationship with Prince Hans, whom she barely knows.
You can't marry a man you just met. You can if it's true love. Anna, what do you know about true love? Well, more than you. All you know is how to shut people out.
Her naivety stems from her profound need to connect and be appreciated, which initially blinds her to Hans's true intentions. Throughout the movie, Anna's journey is not just an external adventure, but also an internal quest to understand what true love means. Her experiences teach her the importance of genuine relationships, and even when faced with Prince Hans's betrayal, she doesn't allow him to break her heart. Instead, she is able to tap into her inner resilience and capacity to love deeply by saving her sister's life. When their shadow side takes over, however, lover twos become the manipulator. Toxic controllers who are willing to go to any lengths to make themselves the center of someone's universe. These twos use seduction and charm to secure relationships, expressing devotion and generosity as a way to get what they want. They struggle with accepting boundaries and rarely take no for an answer. They justify their most intense and invasive behaviors as an expression of love. They are born seducers with a natural talent for showcasing the best and most attractive qualities of themselves while hiding those not so attractive traits behind a mask of silver-tongued charm. A good example of this shadow side taking over can be found in the character of Mother Gothel from Tangled. After kidnapping Rapunzel as a baby and raising her as her own daughter, Gothel twists maternal affection into something dark and controlling, using false promises of love and protection as leverage to keep Rapunzel under her thumb. She needs Rapunzel's magical hair to stay young and beautiful, and she'll do whatever it takes to keep her prize locked away.
Don't ever ask to leave this tower again.
Yes, Mother.
I love you very much, dear.
I love you more.
Gothel's charm and declarations of love, constantly reminding Rapunzel that she loves her, despite clear signs of emotional abuse, are manipulative tactics designed to keep Rapunzel compliant and isolated, perfectly illustrating how a manipulator too can become a dangerous gaslighter.
It was you! It was all you!
Everything I did was to protect you.
Gothel's actions showcase the darker aspects of the Type 2's desire to be the center of someone's universe, manipulating emotional boundaries to serve her needs. Her seductive, motherly facade masks her true intentions, making her a compelling example of how the lover two's all-or-nothing obsession with the object of their desire can transform into toxic control when driven by selfish motives. So if you're writing an Enneagram 2 and you want them to feel relatable and believable and human and not just like a cookie cutter archetype pulled out of a personality typing quiz, here are some brainstorming prompts to get you started. Ask yourself, what childhood conflicts did my character experience that made them mistakenly believe they are not lovable or worthy of love? What does the idea of love mean to them? Was there a moment in their past when they suffered neglect, rejection, or abandonment? How has their generosity helped them to build up emotional walls and protect themselves from pain? How do their weaknesses, strategic helpfulness, martyrdom, insecurity, shame, trip them up and keep them from achieving true happiness? What is their fatal flaw or misbelief, and why is it personal to them? What ultimate truth or aha moment are they going to have in order to transform as a character? I've also created a whole companion guide to writing the Enneagram Type 2, complete with the brainstorming prompts and character examples and the breakdown of all the subtypes. You can download that by clicking the link in the description box below this video. Remember, this is an ongoing series. There are 7 more videos coming in this 9-part Enneagram series, so make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss those upcoming videos. And smash that like button while you're down there and leave a comment. Tell me, are you writing an Enneagram 2 in your story? Or what are some good examples of Enneagram 2s from some of your favorite stories? And if you're from the future, you can find the links to all the other Enneagram videos in this series linked below in the description box. Happy writing, and as always, rock on.